Good morning, everyone. It's April 29th, 2018. I'm Eric. I'm here at Encyclopedia Britannica. I've looked up the rule of law, political philosophy. And Naomi Choi wrote it. Rule of law: mechanism, process, institution, practice, or norm that supports the equality of all citizens before the law, secures a non-arbitrary form of government, and, more generally, prevents the arbitrary use of power. Arbitrariness is typical of various forms of despotism, absolutism, authoritarianism, and totalitarianism. Despotic governments include even highly institutionalized forms of rule in which the entity at the apex of the power structure, such as a king, is capable of acting without the constraint of law when it wishes to do so. That's a basic little definition right there. Okay. And according to this definition, and other definitions I've read here in the last 30 minutes, we do not live in a society that values the rule of law. While many people on the left and right claim that we need a society that lives by the rule of law. But we have an arbitrary form of government now. We have absolutism. We have authoritarianism. We have totalitarianism. And we have a president and others who are capable of acting without the constraint of law. The people you see getting busted, like that Mac woman, they're just people being thrown under the bus. That's all. The higher up people, the real heads of these institutions, the Clintons, the George Soroses, the Bill Gates, and so on, they'll never see the inside of a courtroom for their crimes against the people of this country and the world. So we're not ruled by the rule of law. And even if we can still claim to be ruled by the rule of law because we have an incredibly large library filled with law books full of laws, doesn't necessarily mean we are a nation that's values the rule of law. We allow celebrities, billionaires, and politicians, and law enforcement, for that matter, to get away with crimes that the average American would spend decades in prison for. We have law enforcement people who engage in drug dealing, murder, rape, kidnapping, child pornography, child abuse, and so on and so forth. And very rarely are these people held accountable in the slightest bit. Yeah, there might be a kangaroo court they have to go to, but ultimately most of them end up walking out a free man and retaining their job as a law enforcement officer. Now, there's this guy, Jordan Peterson, and I'm sure you've heard of him. It's like he has this like cult following. I listened to a live stream with he and Sargon of Akkad. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. I'm sure you have. If you haven't, you should check out the debate. It had Mr. Medicare as well, and Jordan Peterson at the end of the stream, or near the end, told Sargon that he wasn't nearly as smart as he thought he was. And the thing about Jordan Peterson is he really thinks he's fucking brilliant. He really thinks that he has everything figured out. And he talked about, on a recent video, about people who don't want to live under the rule of law. And he's talking about people like me. As if his so-called solutions are actual solutions. I think Mr. Peterson isn't as smart as he thinks he is. I think that he is a kind of a cult leader by now. I mean, we have people out there that blindly follow what he says. And look, it's not that the rules or the tips that he gives people for living a decent life are bad tips. Okay? I don't. But he's very, very judgmental, and thinks that a person needs to have their own house clean before they can criticize any of these political institutions. If that were the case, well, Winston Churchill, he did not have his shit together. He was a fucking drunk. And if it weren't for Winston Churchill, a lot of the good stuff that happened during World War II would not have happened. So a person can affect change without having their own house in order. Not everybody has lived a perfect life. Some people had extremely abusive parents, and believe it or not, that kind of shit affects you all the way through your life. Some people, they didn't exercise their intelligence early on and became what I would say are late bloomers. I think I would fall in that category. I didn't give a fuck about being smart when I was a kid. I just wanted to be a kid. And as a result of that, I got bad grades. But did that really have anything to do with how intelligent I was? Mr. Peterson, I venture to say, is full of shit. Also, there's this guy, American Renaissance, and his name is escaping me at the moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, they do make some decent videos, some of them. Some of them are decent. But overall, they're extremely authoritarian and statist in their beliefs. The same with the people over there at Red Ice. I listened to an interview with them yesterday, and the interviewer flat out said that he was for authoritarianism. Most of the biggest advances we've made as a species was due to having the freedom to make these leaps forward. Without the freedom to do so, there are no leaps forward. Not socially, not scientifically, not politically. Maybe that's the point, though. Maybe the only leaps forward they want to see are the leaps of the New World Order, of the Zionists. Maybe the only leaps they want to see is the leaps in the reduction of the population. And I'm sure Jordan Peterson would say that's a conspiracy theory, even though there are thousands of pages of confirmation regarding the ideology of the New World Order types. Even though that ideology is engraved in stone, engraved in granite. The biggest reason why I am not for the rule of law, or reasons, is number one, most of the time, you can go to any country on this planet, most of the time, the rule of law does not apply to, again, the famous, like TV actors, the very rich, like Bill Gates, George Soros, Ted Turner, and so on, the Rothschild people. They don't apply to the law enforcement community as a whole, and they don't apply to the politicians who create these dictates. And the second reason is once you get that ball rolling, law, they end up making so many laws. They end up making the legal code so complicated the average person doesn't understand it. The average person doesn't understand that when you're talking about law, its language is different than ordinary English. What means vehicle to you means something completely different when it is put on a legal document. What person means to you means something completely different So there can't be an effective rule of law unless everybody has the ability to understand all of the laws. And as it stands right now, there are so many laws on the books, both at the state level and the federal level, that if an officer were to follow the average citizen, average everyday person around, not what we would call criminals, they would be able to produce a felony charge at some point. So, that's the two main reasons why I oppose the rule of law. If you're going to have law, they should be very, very basic, very easy to understand. Don't kill, or don't murder. There's a difference between killing and murdering. You know, don't harm others, basically, is really the only law that is needed. If you're a child molester and you harm a child, you get hung. But not without due process. If you're talking about a society that has what you call the rule of law. Again, the rule of law are the mechanisms, the processes, the institutions, the practices, or the norms that supports the equality of all citizens before the law, secures a non-arbitrary form of government. And we have been turned into, or our government was turned into an arbitrary form of government back in 1913 under the control of Woodrow Wilson, who threw us all under the bus. And the same with the people in Congress at that time when they allowed the Federal Reserve Act to be pushed through on late Christmas, when they knew everybody else was going to be gone. They went ahead and pushed this through. Same with the income tax law that doesn't even exist. Anyway, this is my rant for the day. I think this is going to be my last video. I got a birthday party to set up for my daughter. Hope everyone has a great day. Remember, kill the state before it kills you.